Hopefully, yeah, we'll get people asking questions. That's the goal. That's what we're
That would
hoping
be
for.
good. That
Yeah,
would be good.
yeah. We'll see what happens though. But again, like I said, if it's just us or if people are being a little bit too shy, then
We'll kill it.
yeah, we'll just move on
All right.
because
I'll just
your
start.
time's precious.
Okay, I'll just start with a little bit of background so they know, what areas I can help them with.
All right, cool. Give me a second. Okay, cool. All right, live on all the stuff. Let's see what happens. All right, those of you that may be tuning in on YouTube, LinkedIn, where else are we? Where else are we? Twitch. We're on Twitch too. Thank you, and feel free to use the chats to ask questions or share what you're working on, and then we can get into it with Mark. In the meantime, Mark, please introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Marc Honorof. Um, I've been an entrepreneur. Started my own business in 1991. Prior to that, I worked with a very interesting entrepreneurial company that was the first company to introduce semiconductor memory, 16K, to give you an idea how old I am, back in the 80s. Um, Created a lot of relationships with Japanese trading companies and actually sourced the first products that were ever become branded as Packard Bell. Uh, for those of you that are a little older and might remember that computer company. My job there was to open 21 sales offices across the country. So I'm pretty strong in research, figuring out companies to target, markets to target. From there, I went on and started a software publishing company. We were the 10th largest reference publisher in the United States. Back in the day, PC Magazine had a list of the top 100 products. Microsoft was number one with 10. We were number two with 7. From there, I went on, was involved in the management team of the first company that allowed streaming over dial up modems for audio and video. Um, our, uh, our, our, uh, our marketing launch, we did a live streamed Easter egg roll with Bill Clinton's White House. So that was our coming out party. Um, what else have I done? Jumping a little more towards current times. I started a podcast about 6 years ago. Built an organic online audience. Last year we did just under 1 million downloads. We're now taking that, adding video back into the podcast. We're launching it on a video platform with some partners. Um, and for my day job, I'm building an educational division for a global publishing company using a graphic novel format, which is all the kids are reading now anyway. So we're very excited. Got a very nice opening order from Scholastic that's basically funding us for the next year. And we're targeting spring 26 as a major coming out party. And we signed a new distribution relationship with Penguin Random House that has a magnificent educational sales team. So that's me. I'm pretty good from business concept through execution, through launch, and marketing and growing and scaling. I'm good in the beginning. I'm good till about $5 million, and then I would replace myself with a CEO who's better at scaling. I get bored after about 3 to 5 years.
I
So
appreciate you bringing attention to that. A lot of entrepreneurs, founders, they kind of overlook the importance of being honest with themselves and being willing to step back and let others take over when things get a little bit beyond their level of experience or understanding. And it's okay to do that. And a lot of cases, it's going to benefit you and your company to know when to let someone else come in and do what you can't do. So yeah, I just really want to call attention to that real quick. William, thanks for joining us. Doctor, thanks for being on Twitch. William, if you'd like to, feel free to raise your hand, ask some questions. Yeah, I mean, you had a wonderful time yesterday with Mike. I think Marc would be another additional mentor to share what you got going on, and yeah, ask for insights, especially in regards to new monetization strategies, revenue streams, and the likes, especially as it deals with content. As Marc's touched on already, Marc has a lot of wonderful experience dealing with content. Um, yeah, Marc, I'm curious while we wait for hopefully yeah, some people to post some questions in the chats or raise their hand. In regards to building out this new division with Tokyo Pop, how did you decide on what the MVP would be? And with a larger company, with a lot of different product offerings and relationships, I feel like that question of being lean and scaling down to what the minimum viable product should be for a new line in a lot of cases is going to be a lot more complicated or challenging than a founder that's very limited in resources and opportunity.
Sure. So what we're building is a new imprint. This is a little bit different because we've licensed um, from a large educational publisher from another country. So the process is, and Tokyo Pop's been around 28 years. They've got their own team. They've got their own editors and marketing and yada yada. So I'm building out my own team because I don't want to dilute what's already driving Tokyo Pop's success. So I needed to start out. First of all, I was looking for a growth engine, right? So education in this, like I say, graphic novel format is what kids are reading, and this publisher, that's how they put their content together. Uh, uh, some hard science, but really they're adventure stories. So they're very entertaining for kids. So number one was finding the right content to use that we give a high percentage of success. But the first thing that has to happen is I need to bring in a translator, right? Because it's in a foreign language. So once it's translated, then my editor can go through and look at how is it translated, right? So when you translate from another language, it may not necessarily go from Chinese or whatever it is to English, right? So you need somebody that can take the concept of what they're trying to say and make sure the way it's presented in the English language is correct. Um, Also, I have to make sure that the design is better. So I have to bring it up to American standards, or at least our standards, to make it look fresh, new, exciting. So I've got my translator, I've got my editors, I've got my design people. Then of course I need proofreaders because you don't want to have an educational product that has mistakes. And then through another relationship, I need to do layout and lettering. Then I have to review PDFs, make sure that everything looks the way I want it to be. Then I have to create layered print ready files and InDesign, send them to a printer, which was interesting because at the time we're doing this was right at the time that the tariff discussion was coming up. So all of a sudden it went from, okay, it's this price to, oh my God, it's 145% more, except books and education materials are excluded. So thank God I didn't have to deal with that part of it. And then just based on some early PDFs, Scholastic, I'm sure whoever is on the call knows Scholastic. They do the book fairs, huge company, placed a very, very nice opening order with us, sight unseen, because they, like us, believe that this is the way to teach. And kids are reading this graphic novel type format. So I've basically already been able to fund a lot of what I'm doing based on this relationship with Scholastic. So, and then, my launch, my true launch isn't really till spring 26th. So, spring of 26. So I've already got so we're dealing with three topics: science, history, and math. So I've got science. I've got 3 books already prepared, sort of ready to go. History is almost fully translated, and we're working on the design. Same with math. But when we launch, we want to launch with a breadth of product. So instead of launching 3 science books, which I know I can have ready, I'm running against deadlines to be able to deliver for launch 1 math, 1 science, and 1 history book to show that we have a breadth of content, not just one particular subject. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question or not. Just sort of the methodology and the thinking behind how we're launching a new imprint.
No, yeah, I love getting into methodology and the way of thinking for these things, and that's where, again, a lot of earlier, less experienced founders, entrepreneurs, they kind of overlook having a methodology. They just kind of wing it because they're trying to go as fast as possible.
Right.
And yeah, so it's good, again, that you're calling attention to these very foundational best practices that everyone should be aware of and putting into practice. So no, you touched on this really well. I'm curious, like you are putting together a breadth of content for this initial offering. What's the intention in measuring the metrics, the success of this, and then leveraging that to hopefully secure other orders or much larger orders and expand on this?
Sure. So, I mean, the best information we got so far was, like I say, an opening order from Scholastic at very early stages. Uh, I've had several discussions with the Penguin Random House educational marketing, not marketing and sales teams. Um, at the end of the day, for me, I'm a pretty bottom oriented guy, bottom line oriented. So to me, my measurement's going to be, is it selling or is it not selling? I don't have specific goals. We're entering the supplemental market. I'm not doing curriculum because you have to do curriculum for each and every state, and that's just crazy to do, at least at this point. I don't have the resources to do that. So, I mean, there are a lot of counts, right? So we're targeting parents, teachers, libraries to start. So if there's market acceptance, and I can't really give you figures, I do know that the education market is a slow process. So as long as I get opening orders from the Follets and libraries, both school and private libraries, homeschooling, maybe a mathnasium type franchise, as long as I get opening orders from these guys, I mean, those are my first initial KPIs that I look at. One thing I will mention, and Gary, you and I were at the New Venture Fair the other day, judging, um, and one of the things that I was preaching to some of the companies there that looked like they had a minimum viable product, and I preach this to all the startups that I mentor, is don't try to do everything yourself. Um, one company that I met in particular there had like this really cool sports gadget, and my suggestion with them was, look, create partnerships. I know an industrial design firm that likes to do partnerships with cool stuff. Happy to make an introduction, give up some revenue, partner up with them. And then, go license the thing, go license it to Dick's, go license it to, a Nike, whoever it might be. Find compatible, non-competitive companies that already address your market and go cut deals. I mean, and now look, I'm an early stage guy, right? I'm not the guy to talk to about your 100 million company. How do you get to 500 million? I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that when you have an idea and a viable product idea and maybe an MVP, how to get as big as you can, as fast as you can, because none of these guys have a lot of money to invest, right? I mean, maybe they can scrape together some friends and family, but you're going to need that for your patent. You're going to need that for a couple designers and to create some materials. So my advice is always partner up.
No, again, these are really important concepts that most overlook, and it touches again on establishing what the minimum viable product is, what limitations you have, and working within those limitations to, as you said, get as big as you can, as fast as you can, but doing that with a sound methodology that is managing risk. It's setting correct expectations for yourself, for your team, for others that you're, interacting with, and making sure that you are going to move forward. And yeah, the partnerships are invaluable. And a lot of people, and you can speak to more of this, a lot of people think that they're they're not worthy of like reaching out to specific types of people, certain
Right.
partners. Um, they think that they need to be much, you know, further along, or they need to be someone of importance. They have to, be a bigwig or something like that. But I mean, in my experience, and again, you can speak to this as well. I'd love to hear, your side of this. Everyone's worthy. It's just a matter of demonstrating that you're a person that's enjoyable to be around, enjoyable to work with, and capable of getting something done. And as long as you're getting something done, it still counts. It doesn't need to be like, oh, I've made $1 million already. It's like, no, you're further along than you were last week, and you're
Yeah,
continuously going forward.
agreed. Agreed. Well, it's like a sports metaphor, right? Whether it's golf or football or baseball, whatever it is, everybody starts the same. Everybody starts not knowing what they're doing. Um, I think it speaks to the value of networking, right? So you may not know whether you're looking for VCs or partners or whatever it might be. You may not know anybody. So number one, I still believe in cold calling and cold emailing. Uh, don't ask for something. Don't ask for help right away. Um, Ask for advice. Hey, I found you through LinkedIn, what have you. I see you're super successful in what you do. If you have 2 minutes, I would just like to ask you for a little bit of advice. Don't try to set up with your ask right away. Try to create a relationship first. Um, and whether you're, a youngster in a university, you've got professors who are connected. Get out, start networking, meeting people. Um, I still do it today. I know, a million people, very accomplished people, but I don't stop networking because you never know who's going to know somebody that, whether it's today or 5 years from now, you're going to need to connect with. So build your personal brand. And I think also a good comment here is if you believe in what you're doing, you better believe that you're important. You know, it's like
Yeah,
if you have the passion to do it, just do it, right? You don't want the chattering monkeys in your head saying you're not worthy, you're not this. Screw that. You know, go grab it, right?
yeah, it's definitely about finding that healthy balance of self confidence and passion, and not letting that go over the line to arrogance, but also not, you know, completely faking it and being, over the top asshole with something that you're not authentic with. So, yeah, being authentic is another core factor to standing out to people and resonating with them, and being someone again that they enjoy being around and they want to connect with. And your example was fantastic that you just gave, because it was about seeking feedback, right? Advice, right? And it was also such a small ask. If you have 2 minutes,
Yeah,
just 2 minutes, and that's really all it takes. Because if they say yes, it gives you an opportunity to engage with each other, and get a sense of, do you enjoy talking with this person? Do you enjoy, being around them? Whatever it is, and that's the seed that is allowed to grow from there once you make that touch point. So yeah, that's fantastic advice.
yeah. Just a quick funny story. So we had a sales girl that was trying to get in front of a buyer. Would never take her phone calls. Right. Finally, after I don't know a dozen times, she Federal Expressed him a waste paper basket with a note that said, "For the next collateral piece I send you, here's the waste basket you can throw it into." And he called her that afternoon and became a customer. So you got to be a little bit creative also if you're trying to accomplish a goal.
I like that too, because it's at least showing some self-awareness and having some fun with it, where
Yeah, be a little
yeah,
creative.
it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
William,
More than one way to skin a cat.
yeah, William, you're hanging out with us. If you got questions, you got comments, use the chat. you can jump on, use your microphone. If there's something you want to dig into, you want to share, we loved it. Those of you that are watching on LinkedIn, got a few of you. Please, use that chat. Ask questions. Share what you got going on. Again, it'd be really fun to just hear Marc's thoughts on what you're brewing, or what your struggles with, or anything like that.
Yeah,
Twitch as well.
if people showed up, why are they here? Why'd you log on?
Exactly. Don't squander this beautiful opportunity to connect with Marc, hear something. Even if it's like, something you don't want to hear, it's great, because either you'll have a moment where you get to push back on that and reaffirm that your convictions have merit, or you'll realize, hey, wait a second, there's something I overlooked. We should probably investigate this, research, test. So yeah, come on. What are you people doing right now?
Well, I could just keep talking. I mean, I got all sorts of stuff to talk about.
Go for it. I would
All
love.
right, so here,
What do you got?
all right, so I'll throw out another hint, right? So people want to figure out how to grow an online audience, right? So when I started this podcast, and podcast had been around for 17, 18 years at the time, never got any traction. Finally, about 6 years ago, it got a rebirth, and people started talking about podcasting again. So I had a relationship with a TV production company that had a huge archive of military documentary type footage. So back in the day, um, they produced TV shows for National Geo, Discovery, History Channel, etc. This is going back 25 plus years ago. So if they were doing a show on D-Day, for example, they'd interview 4 or 5 veterans of significance at D-Day that had like really cool, interesting stories to tell. They'd interview these guys for an hour. They'd use 2 minutes for the show and archive the hour. So I called my buddy and I said, "Hey man, what are you doing with all those hour-long interviews? It's like the greatest generation. Like, what are you doing with this stuff?" So yeah, we just have them sitting in the vault. I said, "You know what? Let's start to podcast these things. Let's see if we can do something with these." So we put together a bunch of the stories, and just like a little tiny intro, a little interstitial. Production value is very low, but I figured, okay, so how do we get noticed? So again, like I said in the very beginning, I like to do some research. So I looked all over the net. What kind of groups are interested in military history? What kind of influencers or people are out there talking about these topics? So what I did on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, excuse me, I just looked for groups that were having discussions. So instead of just joining and posting, which will never in a million years get noticed, right? It's a waste of your time. Instead, I found the administrator of the group. I sent them a little note. I said, "Look, this is what we're doing. We have this excellent content. I think your audience would appreciate it. I will give you permission to go ahead and share it with your audience." And it was amazing if you position it properly and create the right perception. We were able to grow it without spending one dime to all these groups. And I built this audience of 50, 60,000 people in 6 months' time. It doesn't take a lot of effort. Just sometimes you just have to think a little out of the box. I didn't know anything about growing an online audience. I never did that before. So second thing is, when I jump into a new project, I don't like to see what other people are doing and how they do it. I like to apply my own sort of logic and common sense. What makes sense to me how to do this? I follow my own roadmap. I create, sometimes I get lost, but a lot of the times, I create a pretty good route for myself.
Okay, we got some questions.
Oh, good.
I love the stories. Okay, so real quick, let's get to Arlo's first. So Arlo on YouTube asks, "Hey Gary and Marc, I'm Rachel." Oh, so Arlo is Rachel. "I've been an operator in the tech startup space for the last 10 years. Now I'm building at the intersection of fitness and tech. I love your guidance on fundraising." What suggestions do you have? You kind of already touched on it a little bit in regards to building those relationships through seeking advice, but what else do you have?
Okay, so fundraise. So I'll tell you how I funded my first company. So um, I had an existing relationship with the company, and we were making at the time CD-ROMs, right? And the company I'm talking about was putting together kits. They were taking software and the hard and the drives and cables and selling it as a package. So I reached out to them and I said, "Look, I said I need to raise some money. Why don't we do this? Why don't you prepay me for a year's worth of product? That way, I get money, you get product, you make your stuff, and I get the funding I need to expand my company." So we just did a prepay on a year's worth of orders. So if you're in the fitness industry, I don't know if it's content, I don't know if it's a gadget, but maybe you could find a company and do something similar. That's a very interesting way. I mean, other than that, the standard ways to raise money, friends and family, which is a very scary thing to do. So again, it all goes back to your commitment to your product or service, widget, whatever it is. How committed are you? Are you committed enough to make this happen that you're not afraid to take money from family and friends? So I would avoid pitching VCs. Um, a lot more companies are funding through family offices right now. But again, I would go down the road of finding a company that does something sort of similar, that you can be an add on to what they're doing already because they have your audience. And create, offer, hey, if you buy, X amount of product from me, by the way, I'll give you an extra 3% of the company, 5% of the, whatever makes sense to you. There's a lot of interesting ways, especially in the very early days, to structure deals with customers. I like strategic money. There's no such thing as dumb money. There's things as uninvolved money. So I would go after involved money. That's what I would do.
Again, really strong foundational concepts of just being a great matchmaker, being very strategic, and also in alignment, as you touched on earlier, right, with what I call like a put in front of the community guiding principles, your values, your culture, your mission. The vision can change a lot, but those first three, they're meant to be fairly static, right? They are an extension of who you are and what matters to you, so you can be authentic and allow your business that represents part of you to also be authentic, and making sure that all that is in alignment. Every strategy, every action, that's going to allow your brand to really shine and be cohesive to other people. And you do that as well with seeking the strategic money, right? So it's all really good methodology for people to hopefully be more aware of as they're coming up with ideas and strategies. I asked Rachel for more context. They say they're building a smart Pilates studio with connected reformers. Prototype R&D a bit capital intensive, planning to partner with industrial firms.
Okay. I don't know what reformers are.
I don't either. Rachel, what are reformers? We can look into this. Uh, we'll circle back. We'll jump real quick over to Dina asked, I'm on the way to make an MVP. I wonder if there was ever a big mistake you have done building an MVP. Yes, a lot. But Marc, would love to hear yours.
A mistake in building an MVP. Probably the biggest mistake you can make is falling in love with your own product. Um, I think once you have whether it's a sketch, a CAD drawing, whatever, um, don't assume that that's going to have a product market fit. So what I would do again, I would take my initial idea, whether it's on paper or an actual physical item that you have. I would go out, I would show it to people, talk to people. Don't be afraid that somebody's going to rip you off. They're not going to do it. Everybody's busy. They're not going to chase your idea. Show it to as many people in the market you're trying to address as you can. Get feedback, and who knows what that might lead to. That may lead to funding. that may lead to being able to break into it to a new audience, to a new market. Um, so to answer the question, fear. Fear of being ripped off, I think, is the biggest mistake you can make with an MVP.
Yeah, I agree. A lot. There's like again a process to most of this, and it relates to Mark what you're talking about in regards to the Tokyo Pop project, where you're a bottom line person. That's your core metric, and you're looking for that product validation that the market is willing
Correct.
to get and use your product. And the first step of that is getting the product, paying for it. And that's what you do through pre-orders, pre-sales. You've done that multiple times with different ventures that you've, headed. And the latest one being the Tokyo Pop project. So with everyone that's building an MVP, you want to run these early stage validation tests to make sure you're on the right track. And if you run a validation test and you're not able to get anyone to try buying your product, you got to do research and figure out why. And often it's going to require a pivot. And that's going back to Mark's, expert advice. Don't be so attached to your idea, your product, your service, your whatever it is. You need to be willing to iterate or have a full scale pivot, because like most things, this is an investment. You're making an investment of time, resources, with the goal of being successful, right? So you need to be aware that it requires other people's interaction with your product, your brand, whatever it is you're doing to be successful. And if you're trying to force this onto people and they don't care, you're going to fail. You're
Yeah,
doomed from the beginning.
and another piece of advice, I didn't get the name of the person asking this question, but it relates to Rachel also. Is I don't know where you're located, but I guarantee you there are half a dozen or more pitch contests, opportunities to go pitch an idea, pitch an MVP, whether they're through universities or through private, VC companies or whoever's putting on the particular pitch contest, usually accelerators, incubators of some kind. Get in front of people, man. Show them what you're doing. They're there to give you feedback. That's their sole purpose, to try to find that diamond in the rough. And if they see a problem with what you're doing, they'll tell you. They are not shy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something called a fake door test, which is a worthwhile thing to do before you go to build anything or program anything, or run more extensive kind of or make more extensive investments into building something. It typically utilizes mock-ups of core screens or representations of a physical product, so people can clearly understand what your offering is, what it's like to experience it, and what the benefits are. And you can create a landing page with a button that has the price for your product or the different price tiers, and they click that button to try to buy it. And when they click that, it goes to another page that says, sorry, early access window closed. Would you like to join the wait list? And that's kind of like a very high level summary of this. But the goal is to just record how many people are willing to try to buy your product as if it exists, it's real. And you compare that to how many people you sent there. And if the ratio is pretty good, you can feel confident that you're on the right track, and you can move forward and put a little bit more investment into maybe building the MVP, or getting a prototype built or something else like that. But there's a lot of these little validation tests along the way that allow you to manage your risk and ultimately, again, make sure you're on the right path before you go too far ahead of things. So just be aware of this, and I'll post them in chat a little bit more of these things. We got some more follow-up from Rachel. Rachel says, I agreed on that in regards to fundraising. Think I'm too early for institutional capital, looking to work with strategic angels. And then Rachel also said, unfortunately can't upload a photo here. Doesn't seem chat allows for it, but Reformer is a Pilates machine.
Okay.
It's a scary looking contraption that enables resistance based strength training. Okay. Thank you for the context. That helps a lot. Any further follow ups on that, Mark?
Um, I don't know that I have follows, but it sounds like it's an expensive project to try to put together. I don't know what resources Rachel has. Um, one of the things I might consider, depending on, like I said, it sounds like an expensive device to put together. Um, might want to do some searches through LinkedIn or what have you for industrial design firms. Sometimes, if they like the idea, they'll partner up with you, which might make your life a lot easier. If you're looking specifically for angels, there are a ton of directories. Um, ChatGTP is way underutilized. I was just telling Gary in the backstage. Uh, if you ask it a specific question, give me a directory of early stage angel investors that like the fitness industry. It will spit out an entire list with contact information for you. Um, Not sure that I have much more advice than that on this one.
No, that's good. For a product like this, Indiegogo, Kickstarter might be worthwhile too.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the main thing there is two core concepts to be aware of. One, it's a pre-sale campaign. You're pre-selling your product to customers through rewards-based crowdfunding platform, and the extra rewards are bonuses in addition to what they're getting with the product, right? So do your research and learn how to craft a really good campaign. And the other thing to be aware of it is it's really about marketing, like nailing the marketing, because you need to hit the ground running. And typically, it might have changed, but you typically need to get like the first third of the campaign uh, goal reached, I think, within the first like 24 hours. So you can trigger certain algorithms on the platform to get extra boosts and expand it to the rest of the network on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Uh, so you don't want to rush it. You want to do all the proper research and building up your community and audience before the campaign goes live, so everyone is on board and ready to help boost it across all the different socials and their personal networks and whatever else it is, different, Pilates communities, which is who you're after. There's a lot of wonderful best practices on Indiegogo and Kickstarter and a lot of other blogs and such. So just again, if that's something that's interesting to you, just take the time, go slow and steady to make sure you do the proper research and you do all the pre-campaign work. So you're going to nail it. And the other aspect there is, again, working with those industrial designers, manufacturers, and making sure that the financial model and timelines are completely like like every I dotted, every T crossed. There's nothing left out, and always add some buffer so you can account for the inevitable hurdles that are going to pop up, which that's normal for every early stage business, but especially with like a pre-sale campaign using rewards based crowdfunding, it's just something else to be hyper aware of.
Right. Another tip when it comes to the fitness device, don't underestimate the power of branding. So if there is a way for you to find a fitness company recognizable that doesn't do what you're trying to create, maybe in a different part of the fitness industry, but a well-known brand, might be worth a couple of points to be able to use their brand on your thing. That way, when you go out to raise money, you've elevated who you are and how important your device is. Not easy to do, but doable.
Appreciate that. Rachel says useful, thank you. Awesome.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, Dina adds a little bit more context in regards to MVPs. Dina says, I did get validation from the first two prototypes. This MVP is to get more validation on a bigger scale. Only thing I'm worried about are costs going out of hand. Is that a possibility? Mark?
Always.
Yes, always. Yes. Mark, what would you suggest in regards to keeping aware of those costs and staying lean?
Well, I think you need to understand what the competition is, how much people are willing to pay for a like kind device, and work backwards from there. There's two ways to look at it. One, you could look at it and try to build a market based on price, a low price. The other way to look at it is try to come out as a more sophisticated mousetrap and price it a little bit higher to at least give the illusion that you're the best in the market. But either way, yeah, I mean, it's easy. It's easy to have costs get out of control. So work backward as conservatively as possible. What price do you need to be able? What price do you want to sell this thing at? What margins, if you're going to go through distribution or direct to consumer, what price point do you have to hit? How much margin do you need? And then figure out, all right, what's the most I can possibly pay for my cost of goods? And keep in mind, you're going to need some money for paid ads or some advertising of some sort. Again, I would do as much organic advertising as possible. There are a lot of good ways to do that, but make sure you have some money. I mean, this is a hard thing to do, right? It's like when people go out asking for money. It's like, what's going to come up in the conversation? Use of proceeds. What are you going to use the money for? And you better have a really, really good answer for your use of proceeds. And if you underestimate, and whoever you're going to raise money from sees that, they know you're not going to make it. So, be conservative, but ask for more than you think you're going to need because you're going to need it.
Again, great methodology, good advice. And again, the emphasis on doing things as organically as possible, especially at the early stage, it's invaluable because at this stage, your one of your core goals is to learn as much as you can about your target customer profile or your ideal customer profile, and making sure that you're targeting the right person and you understand where they are congregating, how to, convince them, how to sway them to get your product, and communicate all these things and do it in a way that makes them excited and all that. So yeah, when you're early stage, if you're trying to do things that are more scalable, like buying ads and the likes of that, there's a huge disconnect between you and the person, right? It's harder for you to immediately have a conversation with them, to learn from them, and figure out what's going right, what's going wrong, and how to again iterate and optimize what you're doing. So yeah, being organic, it allows you to build those relationships, and that also benefits your brand, right? Because people hopefully are going to get endeared to you and your company because you're an extension of that. So this is all wonderful, wonderful advice.
Yeah, I'll give you another quick story that can illustrate what can go wrong. So years ago, I grew up on the East Coast. A boater. I hung out on some boats, the Atlantic Ocean. And on the East Coast, one of the most important parts of a boat, believe it or not, is the cigarette lighter, because you plug in all your accessories into your cigarette lighter. And every year, the salt water corrodes the cigarette lighter and the female part that you plug it into. So a buddy and I, both boaters, came up with the idea, what if we made a stainless steel cigarette lighter? So the first thing we did, was start a small LLC, so we were a real company. Second thing we did is we spent a little bit of money, and it doesn't take a lot. We created some drawings and filed for patent, which is like $800 or whatever it was. So you're patent pending, so it makes you look legitimate. And then I did what I mentioned before. We started contacting companies in that business. So we found a company, I think it was called Casco, CASCO, who is the largest manufacturer of automobile cigarette lighters. This is going back a while. So we got ourselves a meeting. This was the coolest conference room I ever went into. I mean, this is an old school company and somewhere in Connecticut. with a 100-foot long solid oak table, shiny like crazy, big conference room, and we had their chief engineer, the CEO of the company. We had and we were young guys at the time. It was a cool meeting to have, and we got them. We offered them a piece of the company. We needed them to manufacture for us, so we wanted to partner up with them. And they spent about 3 months working on tooling with their head engineers. And finally, they came back and said, you know what? We can't roll stainless steel. It breaks our machines. So that was sort of the end of that business enterprise. Great idea, great partner. You know, monkey wrench in the gears. Just couldn't physically be done. Um, but it illustrates how far you can get. So you're talking about what can go wrong. Stuff does go wrong. Um, but we were nobodies. But we got this meeting with this great company. It was multi-million or billion-dollar company. They're top guys. Um, Perception. They're like, yeah, hey, we're doing this. This is a cool idea. We're doing it. We want to do it with you.
Love it. I love it. Okay. Yev asked a question that we've been sitting on for a bit. Okay, so hang on. Wait, I just reposted it because they added more context. Hey, Mark. Happy to have you here. I am building a selfdegree.com, or they are building selfdegree.com, currently on the MVP stage and trying to figure out distribution. I love your idea of doing partnerships with relevant influencers. How would you approach it? Should I build a pitch deck and try to get them on a call, or will it be better to just do a message? Going further, what is the best way to position the offer and how to lead this call? So looked at their website for Self Degree. What it
Are
does
you
is
saying degree like as in college degree?
it's a self learning website that it doesn't actually give you. I don't
But a
think.
degree, it's an educational
Yeah,
product.
yeah, educational content that's pulling. It's like an aggregator from what I'm looking at from multiple different sources, and it helps you, yeah, just continuously be a self
Okay,
learner, a
self-learning.
lifelong learner with all this great content. So that's the basic premise, and there's a link in the chat if you want to touch on that yourself.
Okay. So
But
how do
yeah,
you find the right influencer? So find an influencer that's trying to learn whatever you're teaching, and give it to them for a month. Say, hey, could you use this and let me know what your feedback is on it? I respect your opinion because obviously this is your world. And I would try to find the influencers, and I would try to do it that way. The other thing I would do is I would find, identify the influencers you're interested in, look them up on LinkedIn, see if you have any mutual connections. If you do, try to get a warm intro to them. If you don't, connect with them with a little note that says, "Hey, I came across you. I'm, entering the market that you're in. We have a commonality in interests. Love to connect with you, and again, spend 2 minutes having a conversation." With the goal being, hey, try out my thing and tell me if you believe there's value. And if they don't, then you got to rejigger what you're doing. If they do, now you have an influencer.
yeah.
I don't know if that answered the question.
No, yeah, no. I mean, it definitely touched on the right things. Again, it goes back to being strategic and being a great matchmaker, right? And also not starting with the pitch, just trying to build a relationship rooted in empowering another person to share their opinion, their feedback, their advice with you, and just that little ask to establish the relationship and go from there. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think
makes
that's
them
great.
it makes them feel important.
Exactly. And that's the whole business of empowering others. So exactly. Um, Trying to look at the rest of what they asked. If there's anything that we could dig into deeper on. Um, so yeah, like
By the way, you be very clear on what you're trying to accomplish before you approach anybody. I mean, the way you approach them is a different conversation, but you need to know in the back of your mind what value are you really trying to get from them? Because you will have a follow-up conversation. You know, another quick story. So I had a sales guy, and we were trying to get product into electronic boutique, which was like a like a Fry's or somebody like that. Every week he would call this guy. Which went on for months and months. Every week. One day the guy picked up his phone, and my sales guy was so surprised that he got through to him, he muffled and screwed up his entire reason for calling him. Ended up saying, "I just want to say hello. You wish you have a nice day." So be very clear on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Make notes for yourself. I never have an important conversation without having a piece of paper with 3 or 4 things that I may want to make sure that I talk about.
Yeah, yeah, and that the main point there is to just make sure there's relevancy there. Like I'm sure Mark, you get probably hundreds of spam messages throughout the week. Like same, and the most infuriating aspect of that to me is when it's completely irrelevant, or as you said, it's missing any sort of purpose to it. Like I have no idea what you're doing. It's just I get these messages just like, "Hey, I don't know what you want from me. Like why are you wasting my time?" So yeah, like that's at the extreme end of things when the other extreme is, "Here's my pitch, here's my deck, give me money. I don't know who you are, like what is this?" type of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Hang on, I'm reviewing. Okay, so Dina asked a follow-up question. You both look too chill for CEOs. I'm not a CEO, I'm a president. I got a small little operation. But yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, I come off chill. What's your go-to for avoiding stress and facing disappointments? Oh, I got a lot on this. Mark, what do you got?
Oh, facing stress. Well, if I'm stressed, I'll go see my grandkids and play with them a little bit. I make sure that at least once a week I get out and play some golf. And I don't do it because I'm a great golfer. I do it because I love to be in the green with the trees, and it forces you to think about one thing, like how do you hit this freaking little golf ball the way you want it to go, and you don't have time or to think about anything else. So that's a big de-stressor for me. And then again, playing with the grandkids, the innocence, the fun, the laughter, um, and generally I don't get that stressed. Um, I think I used to, but I think I'm old enough now. It's hard to surprise me. Uh, I've seen and dealt with just about every problem you can possibly encounter. And there is no problem that doesn't have a reasonable solution to it. So try not to get stressed. I'm not a big drinker. I don't do weed, but you have to find a way to be able to get out of the problem. Right? There's 2 ways to live your life. One is you can live in the problem, or 2 is you can live in solution mode. I tend to live in solution mode. It's like, okay, I'm presented with this problem. What are the solutions? What are my potential solutions? There's a solution to every problem.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's important to like there's a number of different elements that you're touching on that are all important. Identifying what you're passionate about, what brings you joy, what allows you to take a break from your brain, right? And just get that zen. Like, oh, I'm just
Yep.
focusing on hitting this golf ball. In my case, it's like I go and play ice hockey, which is, just get to roll around on ice in a cool little atmosphere with my buddies. Like, it's awesome. But yeah, it's important for you, if you don't have those things, to make time and explore and remember that you only live once. So do your best to make the most of it, right?
Yeah, go for a walk, go bowling, go see a movie, go do something. Get yourself out of your situation.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, part of this is really in contradiction to most of the advice and things that are shared on, socials or entrepreneurial business career development type of communities where they push for you to work all the time and be obsessive. But no, that's going to cause a lot more harm. And for most people, it's not sustainable. There's very few people that can function in that way. Like, there's some report that just came out recently that's like there's like I think like a gene that certain people have where they can sustain themselves on like 4 hours of sleep. But that's
Mm.
like, less than 1% of the population. But most of
Yeah,
these
that's not me.
people, yeah, it's not me either, especially at this age. Oh my gosh. Like when I was a kid, no problem. Now I'm like, if I don't get a full night's sleep, I'm sick for the next week. My immune system's like, oh no, we're done. You overran us. But yeah, so you really want to do your best to live with balance and fulfillment, and that requires you not being obsessive. And when you're working on these things, you're either really ambitious or you're really eager, or in some cases you're desperate. And it's not like a knock on you. Everyone's coming from different situations, different backgrounds, different, levels of privilege in what's going on, or, outside factors that are causing these restrictions in what they'd like to do. You just got to do your
Well,
best to, yeah, acknowledge that and not compare yourself to others, right? Like create the correct context for yourself and give yourself as much space as you can and go slow and steady. Like,
well, and it's a trade-off, right? So what kind of stress do you prefer? Do you prefer the stress of having a deadline from a boss who's an asshole, that's gonna, make you feel awful about yourself? Or do you want some self-directed stress where you're in control of your own life and you set your own deadlines, your own milestones, and you're giving yourself your stress? So it's a trade-off. Which do you prefer? I
and
know which I prefer.
yeah, but also remember, you're the boss. So you got to be a good boss to yourself and,
Yeah,
anyone else that
absolutely.
you're working with. That I've fallen through these traps, I've been a horrible boss to myself. I've been way too judgmental and harsh, and a lot of that too. It's a mix of that desperation and eagerness, and making those comparisons to myself, like my ideal version of where I want to be, or other people, right, that I see getting further ahead. But again, your journey's unique.
Right.
You gotta be okay with that and happy with it, and just take the time every day, multiple times a day if you can. And this goes back to Mike Williams, who did a workshop yesterday on project management. He's got a great system that's all about gratitudes and this
Mm.
awareness and celebrating any progress you make.
Yeah, it's a good
It's
point.
yeah, it's beautiful, and that goes a long way in making you a better, happier boss and like person to be around in general. So yeah, all these little things, they all add up. Set hard boundaries for the amount of work you're doing, and make sure you have time for your loved ones. Play with your grandkids. Go and like enjoy a walk, go bowling, go golfing, whatever it is. Just
And reward yourself when you accomplish something. And if you're having a bad week, make a grateful list every morning. It's also important to have a circle of friends or go-to people. Not all of them are going to tell you you're doing great. You need some people in there that are going to be critics, but people you love, people you trust, and people that'll be honest with you.
absolutely. And also, just one more thing to add on that: don't think that all your friends need to be entrepreneurs too. Don't think that everyone that you're already friends with wants to hear about your business all the time or your career all
Right.
the time. Be aware of everyone's a little bit different, and there's different aspects of who you are that relates to other people and makes them excited to be around you and enjoy being around you. And you just, I guess what I'm trying to say is calm down. A lot of people just need to calm
Sure.
down a little bit in relation to this. Have fun with people. All right.
It's very important to have fun.
All right. So Yev adds, thank you. That is valuable. I love making things formal quickly. I think taking it slower and asking for feedback is a better approach to start from. Heck
Indeed.
yeah. Let's double check what else we got going on. I think,
That was a quick hour, Gary. We can do
yeah.
like one more. If there's one more question.
I'm looking, I'm checking the different feeds. Yeah. Okay. Last call. If anyone's got follow up or another little thing to add, now's the time. If not, it's time to go. Let's see what happens. Give it 20 seconds. I need to get some Jeopardy. I need a soundboard is what I need so I can get some Jeopardy music going.
All right, well, if nothing else, it was fun. I'm glad people showed up.
Yeah, momentum. We've got
I
it
hope that
building.
I hope at least somebody got a pearl of wisdom in there someplace.
I know I did. So I thank you for that. Boyne, glad you're here. Yeah, you're welcome. Boyne says thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome. So yeah, Mark, any final thoughts before I shut this down? Anything you want to share with the community?
Uh, just appreciate yourself, man. It's like give yourself a break. I think you said it well. Be a good boss to yourself. It's a hard road. It's a hard road being an entrepreneur, but it's the best road I've ever taken. I've had some bosses in my day. I would much prefer having myself as my own boss.
You're a cool dude. That's why. All right. I love that. That's a great note to end on. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yev, Rachel, Dina, for awesome questions. Really appreciate it. Boyne, William, thanks for tuning in, being a part of this. And yeah, we'll catch you all next time. Take
Yeah,
care.
get out and network. Go network.
Yeah.